Accountability is a huge part of really good management, really good structure in the business that you fucking have to get right. I got it wrong. I made a lot of mistakes. But accountability is all about the responsibility for all the actions within the business and the results that that business then gets. And it's your job as a leader to let people know how they're really doing against how they should be doing and the expectations that you've got for that person. Now, I talked about the expectations of what you should have for people in part 1 of this series. So if you haven't seen that already, check that video out. I'll put that in the link to the description. But do that bit first. But now this video is all about the accountability for every member of staff in your business. It's so important, so you've got to listen and pay attention to this. Now, it's your number 1 job. If you do this part right, if you get accountability right in the business, the impact on your growth, your success will be night and day versus if you've got a business with no accountability in it whatsoever. And it will filter down through all the different levels of people that you've got within the business, and it will become part of your culture and part of what actually happens in your fucking business and the standards that it must fucking have, okay? Accountability, I can't stress enough, is the key. So before we kick into why that is, let's look at the signs of low accountability. So if any of these things are happening in your business, that tells me that there is low accountability. Low revenue or low increased revenue, like performance not going up, employees not performing, lack of sales or new clients or new opportunities coming into the business, lots of excuses in the business, lots of reasons, justifications for things of why they're not happening, a lot of busy fools, a lot of blame culture, a lot of victim culture, just general bullshit that's just going on. You could be pricing work just to keep busy and keep people in jobs. You might even feel that you resent certain people in your team. You don't like some of the people in your team. You might even resent some of your customers. Those are all big things of key indicators of low accountability. So if you're experiencing any of those problems, you have got an accountability problem, and it might be an accountability problem with yourself. That's the crucial part. So let's get really fucking clear. You don't have a bad business. You don't have a bad strategy. It just is that you've got bad accountability problems within the business of actually making that all happen. Now, I know this stuff because I made the mistake of not keeping people accountable. I fucked up basically putting too much trust into older people than me, people that were on paper more experienced than me, and people that you should, or you would deem as, well, they would know better, they know what they're doing, so I'll leave them to it. So on the surface that was the case, but because of that I didn't keep them accountable enough. Things were going wrong on jobs. A couple of the jobs were just really dragging their heels. Progress wasn't being made. Client was getting aggy. Subbies weren't performing on site. I'd left too much power in their hands, didn't keep them accountable enough. And one of those jobs, we actually ended up having to go to a court case with a subby because they'd really fucked up the job. Long story short, they end up having a forensic accountant come in, a forensic QS, reviewing the job. Loads of backwards and forwards, loads of printing emails. We had paperwork stacked like that, backwards and forwards, not to mention all the time it took to sort and resolve that issue out. And that was all because I didn't keep people accountable enough, so I learned the hard way. And it's just very difficult to do things right if you don't hold people accountable. It's just no good for anyone. Because it's incredibly frustrating. It's frustrating for your members of staff because they don't know how they're doing, and it's frustrating for you as the owner because you don't know really what's going on and you're not in control. But really, the bottom line is the reason all that happened was because it was new for me. I didn't really know what I was doing. As you grow and you get bigger and you take more on, it's all new stuff. So it's stuff that you have to learn the hard way, or hopefully you can learn from this video. The problem was I wasn't delegating properly. I wasn't holding them accountable to everything that I wanted them to do and the expectations of the business. I knew really where people needed improving and on what areas that was for them. And I would think, sometimes you go home and you think, fucking hell, they're fucking shit, they're fucking this, they're fucking that. But I didn't really properly communicate it to them, and you sort of stick your tail between your legs and sulk about it and moan about it. And you can be a bit too nice, and that's a real trap that a lot of business owners fall into because it is difficult, it is hard. But it's a really fucking dangerous one, if I'm being perfectly honest. It can really burn you in your business. So it's difficult because you can have the mindset of, well, I shouldn't have to babysit these people. I'm paying them good money. They should know better. They're older. They've got the experience. You can have that outlook on it, and you can say, well, why should I have to fucking micromanage these people? But it's not micromanaging. It's keeping the standard, like a coach would in a high performing team. Everyone's got to be accountable. So that mindset is fucking wrong. Now, you cannot delegate the accountability to other people in the business. You can't just fuck people off and go, right, that's your problem now, and leave them to it. That's where it all goes wrong. You as a leader, the top man of the business, is on your shoulders to keep every single person accountable. So that filters down, that's all the way from, it could be a contract manager or a project manager, all the way down to cleaners in the business, apprentices, whatever. The focus has got to be on maximum accountability for every single person. Now, once I sort of shifted that accountability factor, what that really does is when you hold people really accountable, it actually weeds out the crap. Like when they know that you're going to check in with them and you're going to hold them responsible to stuff, it gets rid of what I call like the C players, so like people that are just like backbenchers, the subbies, versus the A players. The A players are the people that want to perform, they're driven, they're hungry. They're really cool with accountability because they want to fucking win and they want to know that you're happy with them and that they're doing the right things because they're driven people. And they're really the people that you want. You can't afford to have C players in your business, you want A players. So think about the accountability part of it as really the cement between the bricks of you building your wall and your foundations of your business. Without it, it's all going to fall down. So you've got to be that measuring stick for your staff. You've got to be the one who's measuring them up against where they should be, like the expectations versus what's happening. If not, comfort will just sit in and things will just slip. Because really, people need to know, how the fuck are they actually doing? That's what staff really want to know. So I'll give you an example. If you hire a project manager or a contracts manager, and following video 1 in this series, you've got the expectations for that PM. You know that PM, their job is to deliver each project on time, deliver it on budget, but then also the expectation is you've got to keep the client happy, you've also got to keep all the staff, the subbies, all the labour happy as well. Difficult job, very difficult to juggle and get right, but that is the job, unfortunately, so that's the reality of it. And then really what you want to do with that PM is weekly have a check-in meeting, and obviously that can vary depending on how many jobs you got on, the technicalities of the jobs, how difficult they are, and then reviewing those expectations. Is the job on time? Is it on budget? Is the customer happy? Are the staff happy? And really going through that and addressing and communicating every bit of that. Because if one of those is not being met, you need to communicate that straight away and understand the reason why and get to the root cause of why. Because it might be a problem that's not specifically the PMs, it could be external factors like the pricing could have been wrong at the beginning, or they could be dealing with a difficult subby, but you need to get ahead of it as soon as absolutely possible so that you can improve things and get better over time and your staff can develop as well over time. And you need to follow that process from that example with every person in the business. You've got to have clear one-to-one time with people to review those expectations for the role, whatever it is, and give praise if praise is due, and correct or be critical and give constructive criticism if it's not. And you've got to really be willing to roll up your sleeves and understand why it's not being met, and really get to the nitty gritty of that. Now, because it might also mean that you need to invest in other areas of the business as well. It might be that someone can't perform at their job because there's just not enough support elsewhere. And that's what you really need to differentiate past whether someone's not performing or somewhere else needs improving. Now, you need to really listen to what I'm saying here, because even with the best strategy in business, even with winning the most amount of work, if you do not cultivate really, really fucking good accountability in the business and people management, which basically is your company culture, you're just doomed to fail. Like it is, you're building something on stilts. It's gonna fuck up. Accountability, I can't stress enough, is so pivotal to everything you're going to do. And the reality is people don't do it as humans because it's difficult having these conversations, especially if people aren't performing. It's horrible, it's not the best. And we can cover things up because we're just avoiding things and we're not dealing with it, and then you can end up getting into a stage where you take shit, and then you end up flipping and it's just no good for anyone because you end up blowing up, and what was a small problem becomes a much bigger problem because you've not dealt with it. Now, I myself, I know that because I never used to enjoy doing it. I also know other people that physically feel sick or they start sweating and they've got to deal with stuff like this. It's normal, no one really wants to do it, but it has to be done. Because if you don't do it, you're just making the problem bigger. For instance, it's a lot easier to put a fire out when it's a small one in front of you and you've already got a hose in front of you, versus turning up and the whole fucking building's on fire and you haven't got, you've barely got a water bottle to put the fire out. Problems dealt with early on are so much easier than leaving them to fester and become bigger. Now, as the boss, it can be easy to blame others as well and protect yourself to make yourself look good. But the truth is, if staff are underperforming, it's because you're underperforming as a leader and a boss. Yeah, and you've really got to let that sit in and understand that. Because it's a shit sandwich to eat, but the moment that I learned that and things clicked for me, your life becomes so much easier. Because look at it this way. Anyone you've got in the business, you put them there, you hired them, you paid them, and you told them what to do. It's all on you. Like that is the fucking harsh realities of it. So if you complain about people, you go home, you chat to your mates in the pub and you moan about people in your business, it's a reflection of you. Like that is piss poor management and attitude towards the whole thing. It's all on you. The choice was yours to have that person in your business, so it's your choice to manage those people properly and make the adjustments that you need to do. It's 100% in your control. So now we're getting to the point of going, well, how do you actually hold someone accountable properly without fucking overcomplicating it and making things difficult? Really, accountability is simply, like I've said, it's your expectations measured with actual feedback. So the expectations are their job description, it's the values of the company, it's what you want from your business, and then you measure that by the KPIs and basically the results of that person against those expectations. And then lastly, it's communicating that with feedback, and it's meeting them one-to-one, it's reports, it's rewarding staff if they've done really well, if they've exceeded those expectations. And the more of that stuff that you do, the more accountable your whole team will be. And the best way that I find to doing that is actually having your own staff assess themselves about how they're doing. So for example, in that PM role that we spoke about earlier, having them fill out a form on each job and going, well, is the job on budget? Is it on track? Is the customer happy? And let them be self-critical first, so that then they come to that meeting to you already self-reflecting themselves and going, do you know what, I need to improve on this, and this, and that is a potential problem that could come up. That is easier getting them to say it than getting you to say it and attack them. And then it becomes more of a conversation between two of you to go, yeah, do you know what, you have missed the ball on that, but let's do this, blah, 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 blah. I'll help you out with that. And you're taking a more proactive approach. And the thing on that is, depending on the role, is going to depend on how often you meet someone. Someone in an admin role, you might only have to meet them once a month, just as a general check-in. How's everything going? Any problems? Has things been dealt with? That type of stuff. It's quite simple. But a PM role or like an estimator's role in this business, probably likely to be weekly, could be multiple times a week, depending on the what you've actually got going on. There's certainly been times in my past when you're pricing so much work, you actually need to review every day. Like where are we at with that one, because there's a lot of shit going on. You've got to be the measuring stick for that as well. But you've got to set that in place. You have to set that in place. And lastly, to wrap this video up, what I would like you to do is actually rate yourself and go, how accountable are you holding people in your business right now? One being you're actually a bit of a shitbag about it, you don't really hold people accountable at all. And 10 being we're so accountable, every single person in the business is firing on all cylinders and we're fucking winning. Rate yourself on that and really take a think about this video. Maybe even listen to it again and really highlight where you need to hold people accountable, so where you know you need to improve so you can go to the next level of really good management.